Oh, that's crooked. Did all that for it to be crooked. Okay. That's a little better. I think it might still be slightly crooked. Anybody that's here watching this, just let me know if how the audio sound. Make sure the audio coming through. Making sure that the hotspot working. Okay. All right. So, good morning. I think it's the morning still. Trying to start doing these lives more regularly, both on the May 30th Alliance Facebook page and on my personal Facebook page, and also on social media pages that we have, just because we want to try to make sure as many people as possible know all the things that's going on in the city, in the county, in the area, and surrounding some of these issues. For anybody who does not know, we have been occupying outside of City Hall in Rockford, Illinois for 209 days. Living here, the organization, the May 30th Alliance, have had people living here, have activists within the community have been living here and occupying this space 24 hours, 7 days a week since October 3rd, because on October 2nd, Tyrus Jones was shot by the Rockford Police Department officer Dominic McNeese. In November, that officer was justified in the shooting. There was never any video camera or dash camera video footage released from the shooting, so we stayed and continued to protest to try to continue to raise awareness not only for Tyrus Jones, but for the plethora of people who have been killed by police departments who have been killed by law enforcement within Rockford, Illinois, and Winnebago County, and for people who have dealt with any type of traumatization or victimization at the hand of because of state-sanctioned violence. So we continue to stay out here. Dominic McNeese, the officer who shot Tyrus Jones, went back to work in December. January 5th came around, and we were still occupying outside of City Hall in Rockford, Illinois, when a young man named Denzel Duvant, who was also unarmed, was beat mercilessly. There's pictures you can find on my personal Facebook page if you live in Rockford, Illinois, or the Winnebago County area, and you ever driving near City Hall or driving near downtown, and you see a picture of a young man beat up and bruised. That is Denzel Duvant. He was beat up on January 5th, 2021 in Rockford, Illinois. Officer Dominic McNeese was involved in some manner, in some capacity in that happening. In the police report, he says it is stated that Officer Dominic McNeese believed that Denzel Duvant had a weapon. That was the same thing that was said to have been believed about Tyrus Jones when Tyrus Jones was shot. So that's two different people who were unarmed, who were believed to have had weapons, that this same officer was involved in the situation in which both people did not have weapons, and then were brutalized and victimized and traumatized by the police department and the law enforcement here. And of course, just like the shooting of Tyrus Jones, nothing came from the assault of Denzel Duvant. All officers went back to work. There was no investigation into it. Denzel Duvant was denied bail for a prolonged amount of time and sat in jail, and eventually he was bonded out. By the time he was bonded out, his face was completely cleared from his face did not look the same as it did in the days right after the assault. So we stayed here through that. Then as we come upon April 10th, Winnebago County Sheriff Deputy Brulard and multiple other Winnebago County Sheriff deputies together, basically like a hit squad, murdered Faustin Guaitigo within his home. That's something that the video has been released. The body camera video footage has been released for that. You can find it on the May 30th Alliance page. You can find it on my personal page. So you can find it on any of if you live locally or you watch the news here locally, you can find it on all the local Facebook pages and news and websites. So I'm not going to go into grave detail about that because I have went into detail about what happened with Faustin Guaitigo and what was done to Faustin Guaitigo multiple times recently. You can go back and watch other lives, or again, the information is out there. So he was murdered on April 10th. On April 11th, Jose Gonzalez Jr. Was shot by Rockford Police Department officer Owen McGinnis. The dash camera video footage from that has been released. He was shot while he was running away. Faustin Guaitigo was shot while he was standing his ground and then going forward. So it is clear that it is this is not like a situation where you can say, well, if this person did A, B, and C, if he was running away, if he wasn't a threat, then he wouldn't have been shot. Because the very next day, somebody was not a threat. Somebody was running away, and they were still shot. And so that was April 10th and April 11th. Those are things that happen locally. Of course, most people know about the things that have happened in different areas of the nation that got national attention. But what we are trying to focus on as the May 30th Alliance and as an organization, and me personally as an activist, I'm trying to focus on bringing attention to the things that are going on locally to try to get them onto a national platform, so that way it can be people beyond just in the Rockford and Winnebago County region that know about these things. So I tagged this video, City of Rockford Government, because I wanted to, as we're going through all of these different things, I want to start trying to have videos and speak on specific topics on specific videos and address specific things on specific videos, and also do more communicating and do more talking now that the weather has allowed for such. So I think people should understand that as we've been staying out here for these 209 days, the people who work inside of this building, just like it would be with anybody else that you have close proximity with, you begin to understand them differently. You begin to see different traits, and you get to see certain things from a different perspective. So sometimes people will come and they'll ask me, have you talked to the mayor? Does the mayor come and talk to you guys? And I tell people, the first week that we were out here, the mayor, Tom McNamara, the third or fourth day, we came out here on a Saturday night. We stayed Saturday, we stayed Sunday, Monday. He came to work on Tuesday. He didn't work the Monday and Sunday that we initially came out here. When he came into work, he stopped by where we were at. He spoke to us. He asked us what we were here for. He asked us what we were here for. We told him that Tyrus Jones had been shot by the Rockford Police Department, that we wanted him to have a press conference. We wanted him to answer questions about the shooting of Tyrus Jones, and we wanted him to address the prolonged police terrorism that has been inflicted upon communities within this city. He had already put out his Facebook statement in which he said he was going to wait for the process to go all the way through and reserve judgment. He declined to say the name of either the person who was shot or the officer who did the shooting. And that was as far as he went, was a Facebook post, a Facebook statement. So the first day we had a very surface level conversation. We spoke about those things. We told him we was going to be here indefinitely. He went into work, and we stayed out here. I want to clarify things too, so that again, as we get into the spring, into the summer, and as whether it be news headlines or news stories or different Facebook posts or different pictures that people put on different social media posts, to dispel any type of rumors or notions that other people may have about what it is that we're doing. I'm going to communicate everything that we're doing, especially, at least I'm going to do the best I can to communicate it from where I stand and the level in which I'm at, because it is not a hierarchy. This is not something where one person is in charge. And as I speak about, these next things about being involved outside of City Hall, that's one of the main things that, comes into play. And again, we've kept up with everything that has happened outside of City Hall on Facebook posts. We have long Facebook posts which are basically broke down for part 1, part 2, part 3, and each one of them have a different amount of time, a different amount of days, and each day we sort of detail what happened in the day, what events went on in the day, whether it was something that was isolated to just City Hall, or whether it was something that was a bigger issue. So anyways, I want to trace that back. So the first week, he did speak to us the first time that he came in, and the first day that we was here. The second day that he came in, he gave like a real small greeting. And then this is when we were in the back. Again, we used to be in the back of City Hall. He gave a very small greeting, and then he went back in, he went into work, and, we kept on about, our day and, what we were doing. And so when people ask that question, yes, he has spoken to us before. That conversation, the very first day that he came in, that he seen us there on that Tuesday, that is the lengthiest conversation that he has ever partaken with the protesters outside of City Hall. That is it. Tom McNamara has went out of his way to not be uncomfortable while we have been out here. And again, that is the whole point of this specific protest, the specific protest that we have done, is to put people who have been in a privileged position to not have to live their life in uncomfortability because the status quo has been tilted towards them, to put them in a position of uncomfortability, to make them face these things and face these realities that they are usually blind to. And so it is very telling when somebody declines to be uncomfortable. Again, this is I believe that everybody has different dynamics and different situations, and so let me sort of continue on to the idea of uncomfortability. And so as we're out here, especially the first, I would say month and a half, there were multiple people, multiple different quote unquote groups or cliques or however you may, or affinity groups, however you may choose to define it. But there was not any type of unified one organization, one set of activists, or one group that was in control and setting the tone for how things would go or wouldn't go. And so different people chose different tactics. Some people, when Tom would come out of his office, people would yell at Tom. Some people, when Tom would come out of his office, might cuss at Tom or flip Tom off. And the same thing for different people coming in and out of the offices. They're depending on what the tenor of what they have done inside of the building has been. That has always been my approach to the people who go in and out of the building. When they tore down the memorials, everybody who walked out of that building, I said, tell them not to take the memorials down. Everybody who came out, I had something to say to them. In days when, again, this is before we got pushed to the front when we were in the back. The weeks right after we came here, the days right after we came here, we would speak, say good morning to people, say, when people left, try to say good evening to people, and try to keep a cordial relationship. One of the things that tilted that relationship to the side, and even, again, as this is a stream of consciousness, I want to at least keep it on this specific concept. So as I think of different things, I want to trace things back. So again, people should understand that the first Monday that we were here and this building was open, instead of coming and trying to have a conversation, instead of coming and trying to have an open dialogue, instead of coming and trying to understand what it is that we were here for, the first thing that the people inside this building did, a predominantly white male building and a predominantly white in general building. It may be, I doubt that it is double-digit black people who work in cubicles or work in offices inside there. There may be black people, even black people, but people of color. There may be that if you include, maintenance and whatever janitorial work, and that's not me having some type of trying to engage in any type of stereotype. That's, truthfully, from statistically and percentage wise, what you see coming in and out of this building. So this was a white power structure because it is a government institution, and that makes it naturally a white power structure. But then it is double down on a white power structure in which all the people who go in and out of the building are white. So the first thing that they chose to do was to weaponize the police, was to come and have a conversation with police in hand, with threatening of arrest, with saying telling us we have 15, this was the very first Monday that we were out here. We came out here Saturday night, stay Saturday, stay Sunday, Monday morning. The doors was open. People could come in and out of the building. The entrance wasn't blocked. Kyle Saunders, who's the head of public works, came out with, and all these things are videoed and documented. Kyle Saunders, the head of public works, he comes out of the building with police officers in tow. So the first dialogue and conversation that was ever had between people who were out here protesting about police terrorism, mass incarceration, racial injustice, was to be threatened with police terrorism, to be threatened with being put into this system of mass incarceration, and for it to be done in a way that was highly racist, and if not racist, highly anti-black. Especially when the tenor of the nation, when you live in a nation in which people are making laws called Karen laws, when they are telling you that weaponizing the police against black people is a real thing, that bringing police to situations with black people where the police are not truly needed can lead to the loss of life or some type of victimization of black people, and you continue to engage in that activity, then you are engaging in racist activity. It becomes a point, and that's what, that's one of the things that people don't really understand about the concept of racism, I believe, is that there becomes a point where, yes, you are ignorant to something, and so maybe you are not racist due to your ignorance. But once it has been brought to your attention, and usually, again, once somebody gets to a certain age, everybody has things brought to their attentions in different lights. But usually by the time you get to be a functioning adult in America, it has been brought to your attention multiple issues that exist in America, in the nation, when it comes to racial divisions, especially in the age of information in which we live in. So by the time you get to be 25, 26, 27, 28, and the people who working inside of here are not young people. These are older people. These are 40-year-old, 50-year-old, people working inside of this building, late 30-year-old people working inside of this building. These people understand that these activities have racist connotations and racist undertones to them, but they still continue to engage in them. So that is racist. Just because you have black friends or black family members or black co-workers, which I'm sure will be is the argument that anytime somebody calls anybody who works inside of here racist, that's the argument that they use to justify to themselves, is that they like basketball. Black people play basketball. They got black friends. They got black family members. They hire some of the black people that work inside of here. They ask they got black friends on social media. None of those things, because of what integration is and the tokenism of integration that has been allowed into the nation, it no longer is sufficient to know somebody black to make you not anti-black. The idea that having somebody be related to you makes it so that you can't be racist is insane. It would be like the same thing as, oh, well, if you have a sister or a daughter or a mother, you can't be misogynist, which will leave us in a point where nobody could be ever viewed to be misogynist. And we live in a nation where that because of the amount of close proximity that different races have to each other, because of generation, the beginning of black people coming over to America, black people were whether, even though it was done in the shadows, were integrated into white society. White men were constantly raping black women and having mixed race children. And so, I say all those things to say that didn't stop them from being racist. Slaveholders had family members that was black. So this idea, if the slaveholders knew more black people than they knew white people a lot of times, that didn't mean that they were not anti-black. You could be, in Jim Crow South, it was plenty of racist white people who lived in predominantly black counties. They were still racist. They had the person who raised their children was black. They knew black people. They were still racist. And so I'm sure that would be an argument that they would use to justify when somebody would say that they have engaged in racist activities and racist behaviors, and then would repeat engagement in racist activities and racist behaviors makes you a racist. And then, once you change that behavior, once you change those things, then that title no longer becomes applicable, or that, statement no longer becomes applicable. But as it stands here, in the 209 days that we have been here, there has not been an average of a week span in which there has not been some type of racist microaggressions being done, some type of racist weaponizing of police being done, some type of racist hindrance of freedom of speech being done, some type of racist the hearings that they have inside of here on a regular basis, the fees that they give to people, the percentage of people who are given these citations and fees, which live in lower class or poor communities and are of color. That has happened while we have been here. So there's the people who work here. What's crazy is all the people who give the parking tickets, because they profit off the parking tickets. So the parking ticket, the parking police is part of this institution of the government too. They all black. I have not seen a single white person driving in the cars that give the tickets out to people. And everybody gonna make it out what you want. I make of it that, and this is something that I've talked and had conversations with people about, that probably make up a percentage of how many jobs they gotta have delegated to people of color. And then that also make it so that people can't say the parking tickets is racist now, because they got all the black people giving the parking tickets out. And I would almost 100% guarantee and bet that the parking tickets are predominantly, whether the black people who are engaging in this are conscious of it or not, that the parking tickets disproportionately affect black people and people of color than it affects white people, based on what the average income is for people of color here, and based what the average income is for white people here, and then based on most people who's going to end up getting parking tickets down here are people who don't come here as often, as opposed to people who here in this area all the time. So the people who live here, and this is an area where it's mostly it's expensive to live in the lofts and the areas in here downtown. They got money and they know about the parking, how the parking work down here. The people who come less often and less frequently, who don't come, as usual, who don't live in the neighborhood, those are the people who end up getting hit with the parking tickets. And that go the same thing when you go all the way down to the courthouse, because this is an issue that, it's not only here. Once you go down to the courthouse, they patrol the courthouse. Who you think the majority of people who get parking tickets down there at that courthouse is people of color. And so it is not a surprise that they have people of color institute the parking tickets out to them. So then you can't say it's racist. So then you can't say, well, this specific person is engaging in racist activity in the way they're giving out the parking tickets, even though the policy is already built to be racist. The procedure is already built to be racist. The institution is already built to be racist. So it don't really matter who it is. A robot could be doing it. A monkey could be the one giving out the parking ticket. It's the manner in which the parking ticket is being given out, the place is being given out at, the people who are at that place frequently, that makes it racist. Not the person that's giving the parking ticket out no more. It started out with the person, because the person built the institution. The same thing with police, and it's this idea, now I'm swaying the conversation, because I wanted to, again, focus on things inside of here. But this still is applicable. And I've said this a million times, but I think this is something that cannot be said enough times. The individual does not manipulate the system manipulates the individual. The only exception to that is the individual who implements the system. But since the individuals who implemented these systems were all racist, were all bigots, were all misogynists, had all of these negative isms, all of these institutions are built and rooted in these concrete negative isms. So now that you put individuals into these systems are already too well built for an individual with good intentions, or with pro-black intentions, or with pro with pro-poverty intentions, or with intentions to do good, to go into the system and reverse it. It's been hundreds of years of this system being built like this. So that's what, when people talk about, or especially for people who don't understand the concept of abolishing prison or abolishing police, you have to trace back to what policing was built in and who built it. You have to trace back prisons and the the prison industrial complex was built in, and who built it and what their intentions were. And so not what you perceive it to be in 2021. It's easy to go through a city, and it's easy to go through Rockford in 2021 and just drive around Rockford and think it's a coincidence that the majority of poverty neighborhoods people of color live in, and the majority of affluent neighborhoods or affluent communities white people or people of non-people of color live in. It's easy to think that in a snapshot instant, in a 1 year, 2 year span. But then when you extrapolate that to 10 years and 20 years back and 30 years and 50 years and 100 years back, you start to see that. And, this is where we get back to the institution of the city of Rockford government. You see that these were things that people planned to be this way. You see that people set neighborhoods up to be predominantly people of color when they were going to deindustrialize, when they were going to take resources out of the neighborhoods. And when it was time to build new neighborhoods, and when it was time for new jobs to happen, that white people and people not of color were put in the head and were allowed to have extra privilege that was not allowed or allotted to people of color. And so then you see, even as you dilute that privilege, if you start 200, 300, 400, if you start from the inception of the country and you set somebody 1,000 feet back, and then in the midst of setting one people 1,000 feet back, you give that extra 1,000 feet to another set of people until you get to the point where you hold back. Again, this is where equity comes in to existence at, and this is again why sometimes you have to do something to such an extreme. Until you hold back the people who have been able to benefit and take steps forward based off of somebody else being pushed back, you have to hold them back, and then at the same time you have to pull the other people forward. And that's what the idea of revolution is, and that's what the idea of abolishing systems is, and that's what the evolution, the concept of destroying and rebuilding is, destroying and creating, or destroying and recreating. It's because this country and these institutions, how they are currently set up, people are right. There is no way that this can be remedied or fixed. It's going to take not just one generation or two generations, but plethora of generations for however long that this empire, this nation continues to exist, to, the wind probably blowing on the mic, to get to a place where instead of trying to reform or fix certain institutions, they are trying to create new institutions and destroy the old institutions. The same way that in tech, they wasn't trying to recreate the cassette tape or recreate the DVD. Let's go by. They destroyed the DVD in the midst of creating the stream. They'll destroy the stream, the manner in which we stream things to create whatever the next thing is. It's not the same, it's not a reforming it. It's not a trying to fix, the same thing with systems. It's only so many times they're going to give you the PS2. They'll update the PS2 a few times, but eventually it's got to be a new system. And again, that new system may have some of the more positive ideals of the old system, but it has to be created completely new. It has to be created with completely new intentions. The intentions of these institutions and these systems and this government, specifically this government, because we're talking about Rockford, but again, extrapolating it to all governments, they were not created in the hopes of equity. They were not created in the hopes of prosperity for everyone or the equality of everyone. They were created to exploit. They were created to oppress. They were created to subjugate and keep certain selected people in a specific place and spot, so that other people could continue to stay in their place and spot. And so, so again, the concept, the reason that I started this video, besides the fact, like I said, I want to start doing these videos more often, was to try to focus on, man, the wind's so crazy. Was try to focus on the building and the people who work with the building, the work inside the building, and some of the overall tenor of of what has happened, or what the behavior patterns have been for the people who work inside the building. So let me go back. So our first interaction was with police involved. That has never changed. In the 210 days that we've been out here, I can count maybe a handful of times, and we've interacted at least, 50 to 75 times, probably more than that. We've interacted at least like 75 to 100 times. I can only count a handful of times in which the interaction did not involve police. It is always and that's the same thing that when, certain people don't understand what the police are really for. Like, the police are really there to uphold a status quo. There may be times when they do other things because governments are greedy and want to be able to bring as much money in as possible. So if they can allocate other activities for them to do with other ways that they can be paid, they have unions and stuff like that, so that's why it's such a difficulty to try to get mental health specialists and get people who specialize in specific things to come in situations and push police out, because the more situations you push police out of, the less money that they have, and the less money goes into that institution. So every interaction that we've had with them is involved police officers. And the mayor, same thing with the mayor. We've talked to the mayor, a handful, like I said at the very beginning. So anyways, that's past the first week. So eventually, let's get to like day, 100 or so. On day 100, this was around the time the memorials. I feel like besides the very first week, the biggest, No, never mind, my fault. Okay, the third week, so much stuff has happened out here. And again, I'm just trying to speak on as many things as possible. Different people gonna watch different videos and pick up on different things. So now I just want to. So anyways, the third week, the second and third week we were here. it was raining. We had put a big tarp. We had like 3 canopies. We put a big tarp over the 3 canopies. And it was Indigenous Peoples Day. And the police popped up with like 20 police officers. And they, told us that the city put out a statement, and in the statement the city said that we was only allowed to have 1 canopy and only to have 1 table. They just gave specific things that we could and could not have, things that they would later renege on day 100. But instead of, again, coming out and just telling us this, or coming out by themselves and having a dialogue or a communication about why they felt that, they needed these things, or trying to figure out why we were here. And I hope this bus not making too much noise. Their thing has always been these what up. Their thing has always been these ultimatums, which is not how you deal with people when you're supposed to work for them. And it's not how you deal with people when you're supposed to work for them. These are public servants. They work for the government. The government, the man who's engaging in the majority of these activities, he's the head of public works. He's the head of public works. He won't even come and he won't even have a conversation with the public without police being involved. And so, again, anyways, the police come, tell us we got to take this down, take that down. Again, a message that could have been delivered without police, or a conversation that could have been had. Instead of a message being delivered, it could have been a conversation that could have been had. But that wasn't something that they wanted. They wanted to deliver a message and have an ultimatum. So that was the 3rd week. The next thing, one of the next big significant things that I could think of happening is on day 100. This was they tore the memorials down. I think day 98, day 97 of us being out here. We made memorials for the multiple people who have been killed by the Rockford Police Department, for the multiple people who have died in custody. We made memorials downtown. We put them on the light poles, put flowers and stuff, and stuffed animals down there. We had an event. It's filmed on the May 30th Alliance page. I'll try to start sharing the videos I referenced to on these lives on my page too. But so we had that. We had these memorials up. And so within I don't know how many. I guess maybe it was like a week. Within like a week, they come and they tear the memorials down, like three, four of them. They come and they're ripping down the memorials. They not doing it with the lack of respect to the fact that it was a memorial almost made it seem like it was purposely disrespectful, which each person will have their own intentions and their own interpretations of that. That's how perspectives work. In my perspective, if I was, and again, this is something that personally, certain things I just would say I wouldn't do. And I don't, I have not been affluent in life. I don't, I have not had a lot of money. I have not had high paying jobs. So, maybe this isn't applicable to me, because of the jobs that I've had, I've not been put in a situation where it was like the amount of money almost incentivized me to just go along with something, so my experience makes it, that I just couldn't do it. So I could not come and tear the memorials down. I'd be like, you got to get that to somebody else. I'm not doing it. But if I were to do it, the amount of care and respect I would take to doing it, even coming, again, this is something that you could come and have a dialogue about and say, hey, X, Y, and Z, we got to take down the memorials, or we need to take down the memorials. What can we work out, or what kind of what is it that we can do to do this in a respectful manner, or in a manner in which it won't cause issues? But none of those things were done. People's families had came and seen the memorials and took pictures at the memorials. The initial time that we came and created and put the memorials out, people's families came out that initial day. And so they tore the memorials down, and that caused a very contentious interaction with the workers of the city who were tearing down the memorials, and with some of the activists and organization members who were here when the memorials were being torn down. I think what's important to, and this is something that has been, again, a reoccurring theme or thing that has been brought up multiple times. In a second, I gotta go get some water. I always forget how talking. But one of the things that has been a constant issue that people have had is this idea that they don't like police, the disrespect that is given to police officers, or the disrespect that's given to the people for the city government that's working, or the disrespect that's given to the mayor, and that the disrespect is they're saying in the tone of somebody's dialogue, or excuse me, the tone that somebody is speaking with, or the language in which. I infer personally when people say this that they're referring to the tone that people have when they're speaking, or they're referring to the language that people engage in when they're speaking, or they're referring to like body language that people engage in when they're speaking. And I think from uninformed, removed perspective, I would understand that same concept. I would understand with saying, look, I agree with your message, but maybe you should try to get this message across a different way. They not gonna hear you if you talking like this. They not gonna hear you if you using this type of language. You know, I would understand that from a removed situation if this was an isolated event that took place. But what has happened in Rockford is that these are no longer isolated events. These are no longer one situation or a few situations. These are no longer just individuals who are trying to do their job. These are people who are conspiring and in cahoots for institutions and for economic gain and for career gain, and they know what it is that they're doing. Good looking, thank you. They know what it is that they are doing. They're not doing these things out of ignorance. They're not doing these things out of just trying to do the job and get their job done. They're doing these things because they believe in these things. Like they believe in the police. These people have on the end of Jamie Cox, and again, I'm trying to, even though this is the overall concept and the theme of this is to be centered around the city of Rockford government, which extrapolates to the national government. I'm trying to explain how these institutions and these systems work. And I'm also trying to expound upon certain things that have happened here, so that way people have the understanding of these events without just having some type of snapshot. And so excuse me if I'm jumping from subject to subject or from topic to topic, or if it's a sort of a stream of consciousness. Again, I'll try to share any videos I'm referencing to after. If you go to the May 30th Alliance page, if you go through my Facebook page, all the information is there. These videos, now that we're in the spring and the summer, are strictly to try to, especially now that Faustin Guaitigo has been murdered, now that Jose Gonzalez Jr. has been shot while he was running away, now that I believe that in South Carolina or North Carolina, I don't remember the specific state. So much stuff has happened, but I believe a video is about to be released shortly, or has been released, maybe in the midst of me filming this, of what happened to the man out there. And so we are in a place where there's a hyper awareness, even through the Joe Biden election, the Derek Chauvin verdict. There is still a hyper awareness on these issues nationally and globally, and I think that it is incumbent upon us locally to now have that same hyper awareness, to now pay that same attention. And we have 2 shootings that have happened, and there's going to be some type of ruling to come down. And I believe, and this is not me trying to speak it into existence, this is not me trying to be pessimistic, I believe it's going to be justified, because history tells me that it will be justified. And I believe the city of Rockford government is complicit in these justifications of these shootings. Now, let me get back to what it was that I was speaking on. On the anniversary of when Jamie Cox and Eddie Patterson both died, when they were, and again, because of political correctness, no matter which side is going to be on, no matter which side people are going to stand on. If I say in the day that they were both killed, if I say in the day that they both died, there will be somebody who does not like the tenor or the manner, whether it be from the side who are pro-police or anti-police or pro. Whichever interpretation that you want to take it, I do not know what happened that night and the manner in which it happened. But what I do know is that 2 men lost their life that night that did not need to lose their life if certain institutions were not designed to incentivize the pulling over of people of color. If the institution was not designed to incentivize the person who is pulling over the person of color, feeling as if they have this power, this absolute power where they can do anything, and no matter what happens, they are in the right. The institutions are complicit in that. So again, I'm going to say that 2 men lost their life that day. 2 men died that day. 2 families were traumatized. 2 families that will never be able to fully recover from these things is what happened that day. And instead of the city having that same mindset, looking at it from that same standpoint, and this is again the government, the city government, the institution. Instead of them looking at it that way, when the anniversary comes up of when Jamie Cox and Eddie Patterson both lost their life, the city only acknowledges Jamie Cox losing his life. The city only acknowledges Jamie Cox losing his life. I remember when there was and I might be not having the exact stats for this or information for this set up the right way. I'm gonna start trying to have a tablet, and we'll figure out how to get these lives going so that way all the information being expounded upon is all accurate and correct. But I believe that initially afterwards that a church tried to hold a vigil, and they had a Black Lives Matter sign up, and people said the only way that they would attend the vigil, people who were from the pro-police side or from the opposite spectrum, only way they would attend the vigil is if the Black Lives Matter sign wasn't up anymore, and it was capitulated to when the Black Lives Matter sign was brought down. The same sign that would be the same sign that at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement last year, and I don't know if I should use the word height, but at one of the precipices in the midst of these ebbs and flows, and one of the precipices of the Black Lives Matter movement, that sign was again defaced. So it is obvious that the sign was symbolic, and so it is symbolic that in this city, when that happened, institutions and individuals led to that sign coming down. To let people, everybody, anybody in the city, anybody in the county, in the area, to know where the institutions and where this city stands at when it comes to these issues. So every year that anniversary comes up, that is a reminder when they only acknowledge Jamie Cox, when the lights here are blue, when they make a Facebook post and they speak about Jamie Cox being killed and they say nothing about Eddie Patterson. So this institution is complicit in these things happening. This institution, based on the tenor and the tone in which and the dialogue in which they do or don't engage in when it comes to these issues in the city, they are culpable and responsible, just as much so as the police department, just as much so as the individual pulling the trigger. It may look differently, but so. Again, that is why we have been here and why we have continued to address things here. And I believe that is why they have continued to react in a certain way. I do not believe that, and this is also how in 2021, this is also how these institutions work, is that in every single city government, this is not the activity that would take place if people went outside of the city hall. There are some cities in which nothing would have happened. They would have not weaponized the police or called the police. They would have just tried to let it. They wouldn't try to make no extra news headlines for it because of the way in which because again, all the police terrorism manifesting and someone being shot or murdered by a police officer, though that happens very often, and the amount that it happens is ridiculous, and it shouldn't happen at all, but it definitely should not be happening at that percentage. There is more microaggressions that you never see. There is more people getting arrested for things that they didn't do, or being arrested and then going through the system, and because of the skin color or of the amount of money they have, the system being unfair to them or unequitable to them. There's way more of those things happening than it is the manifestation of it happening in the shooting of police or some type of victimization or brutalization of the police department happening to a citizen or individual. But however, so that could have happened in another city, but however, because of the extreme gravity of the issue in Rockford, the government has to react this way when people come out here and protest against police violence, because the amount of police violence that they know they allow to happen, and that they know is going to continue to take place. So they have to try to get you to stop being in front of the building protesting police violence when they know more police violence is going to take place. If we was to come out here and this was a city where it was an aberration that someone got shot by the police or someone got killed by the police, because usually police just, they give too many tickets or they do DWBs, they just don't, violence is not the thing that they are engaging in at a high regularity. They might have just said, don't do nothing, let them stay there. They're not going to have nothing to protest about. In a year, 2 years, they're gonna be out there for a year and ain't nothing else gonna happen. But here in Rockford, because they knew that soon after, not only would the shooting be justified, but it was very likely that another shooting would take place or some other type of semi-high profile assault would take place, that they needed to remove the people who would highlight it happening, who would give a platform for it happening. And so they had to engage in all of these different microaggressions and weaponizing the police as possible. And so that lets you know that I had to reconnect. I'm sorry, that was very loud. Dang, that's crazy. I was in my bag. I don't know where I was at. I lost it. But anyway. Oh no, it's just okay. All right. Okay, we back. It's back. It's still okay. My fault. We had some technical difficulties. Okay, so again, soon after they tore down the memorials and made this big fuss over the memorials being up on the light poles. Soon after that happened, let me let this motorcycle go by. Dang, that ain't really a motorcycle. It's like a bike with an engine on it. It smells like barbecue. It's like a barbecue engine on it. Okay, so soon after they tore down the memorials, man, that's crazy. I think he took it right because of Terry Carr. All right, anyways, soon after they tore down the memorials, Denzel Duvant on January 5th was assaulted by the police department. I hate to get the days convoluted. I gotta, as we go forward, try to figure out, the manner and exactly what this is going to consist of trying to doing these lives and trying to communicate the issues more and trying to get out the purpose of these things more. I don't really know what this is. We driving the cars, we building it. Building the cars, we driving it. Everything is, the murder of Faustin Guaitigo and the shooting of Jose Gonzalez Jr. has made it so that we are, trying to figure out what is going to be, because we know that this is going to now I'm getting off topic, but since we know that these things are going to continue to happen, what we have to do is the same way that there is a Winnebago Boone Integrity Task Force that is activated when state sanctioned violence comes down in the form of in custody deaths or police shootings, and there's different steps and layers that they go through. We have to get to places of community, and the May 30th Alliance is an organization, and any other organizations or affinity groups that decide that this is something that they are going to be not reactive to anymore, but proactive about. And that's not me saying other people have been reactive. I'm saying that I believe for the last 11 months in Rockford, Illinois, everybody involved in these issues have been proactive in different ways and in different platforms. And all of that has led to there is a culture shift happening and a culture change happening. It happens slowly. You don't wake up overnight and all of a sudden people have a different outlook or perspective on things. It happens slowly, and unfortunately, it does happen because of we're protesting about state-sanctioned violence and we're trying to change people's perspective on state-sanctioned violence. It's going to take more state-sanctioned violence coming down for people to. Let me let this ambulance go by. Damn, it's so loud. I wish I could mute this so y'all don't gotta hear it. In this, but then I brought it back. Oh, that was loud on my ears. I wonder if that was loud for y'all when I brought it back on. I think that worked though. I think I muted it. I don't think I'm gonna do that a lot. It's still Wi-Fi still on. Okay. So I believe we have been proactive, but I think that we have to now set something up that when these things happen, especially after we've seen two of them happen back to back, and then we see, the lack of, I believe, the lack of true transparency. We've got a very diluted transparency. I believe that it is good that we have got the video of Faustin Guaitigo was released, but I think that so many things that I'm getting off topic from the city of Rockford, but it is still on topic. But so so many things that are going to take place probably in the next, I would say, probably 3 years, and this is just me ballparking. I don't, are going to be like steps forward that feel like that are not going to feel like a step forward because it's going to be almost a slap in the face that it wasn't happening before. It's going to be an indictment. We're going to have things that they're going to do in the future that will be an indictment on the action that they've taken in the past. And so the releasing of Faustin Guaitigo's video, I believe in, less than 2 weeks of the murder of Faustin Guaitigo is an indictment on the fact that we're coming up on 211 days since Tyrus Jones has been shot, and the dash camera video, which has been acknowledged to exist, has not been released yet. And if somebody wants to say, well, that's a different law enforcement branch, well then I take it over to Rockford Police Department. The next day they shot Jose Gonzalez Jr. They released the dash camera video footage, and they did it in an effort to be transparent and in this idea that they want to have a better communication with the community, or whatever it is, relationship with the community, whatever precepts that they released the video under. It is an indictment that they have not yet released the video of Tyrus Jones being shot, when that was had happened longer ago. I don't want to say it was a bigger issue because none of these issues are bigger or smaller. But the Tyrus Jones shooting, when it happened, it was still in 2020, so close to the murder of George Floyd happening. It was a week removed from the City Market protests, which were exactly about what was happening to Tyrus Jones, and in accordance with also being about what happened to people on May 30th. But the people who came out on May 30th came out because of what happened to Tyrus Jones. The lack of things that they did, transparency that they have for that, and if they want to put that on Marilyn Height Ross and a different state's attorney, see, that's when you get back into the place of the individual and the institution, where now they'll try to put it on the individual, even though that the same institution, the state's attorney's office, the same institution, the Rockford Police Department, the same individuals within some of those institutions with being the police chief, and then the same institution with the city government, and the same individual Tom being within that institution, they all are still some of the same pieces. But since now this one individual piece has been removed and another one has been put there, they'll put all the blame on why that video hasn't been released onto this person who's no longer there anymore to verbalize or speak on why they made those actions or their intentions. And so now all offices, everybody's hands are washed clean. Meanwhile, if they wanted to release the video of Tyrus Jones being shot, they could do it right now. They could do it right now. The state's this state's attorneys. So this is how you have to understand these things, and the highlighting the hypocrisy of some of these things. This state's attorney's office is comfortable with going forward and prosecuting Tyrus Jones themselves in their own way. Not having Marilyn Height Ross or because they fired other people from that administration. They're fine with going their own way about prosecuting Tyrus Jones for some of these things. What's up, y'all? For prosecuting Tyrus Jones for some of these things their way. And even though now he is saying he believes that releasing these videos does not hinder somebody's possibility of having a fair trial, he's still not going to release the video of Tyrus Jones. So if you believe that it will not hinder Jose Gonzalez Jr. having a fair trial to release his dash camera video footage, so you allow for it to be released, or you are in concert with it being released, or you don't have any objections to it being released, or you even condone it being released because the police department is trying to now engage in transparency, why not on that exact same day would you say we should also release, why not say we should also be releasing the video of Tyrus Jones being shot, because this checks off those same boxes? For these same reasons, because I believe I will be able to try Jose Gonzalez Jr. fairly. I believe I will be able to try Tyrus Jones fairly. It's the same issue. And so the reason that the Tyrus Jones video was not released is political. The same reason that the Jose Gonzalez Jr. video was released for political reasons. They weaponize the police and bring the police down here for political reasons. They watch this chalk up every day when it's down here for political reasons. And this is something that is, if you go and listen, this is not something that's my some concept that I've brought up or thought of myself or something like that. And I don't know how 100% true the idea that everything is political is. As time goes by, I grow to in the midst of being down here. For me, everything I see is political. Every interaction I have feels to be political. Some too much so sometimes. But I believe that everything that has happened in the 210 days down here has been done in a political, for a political purpose and for a political reason. I believe that if we lived in a city in which all the parties were not in cahoots and were not conspiring together for these issues to continue to manifest through generations, and for the same people to be able to exploit and oppress and marginalize people, if it was not a complete coordination from all parties involved, Democrat, Republican, Independent, fluent white, or fluent black middle class, everybody, the education, police, it's the city government, the jail, the people who investors, all the people who can profit from the police terrorism and mass incarceration and racial injustice and all the things that those things can manifest into being, all the people who can profit from that do profit from that here. So they are all in cahoots and needing it to continue to happen and needing to continue to perpetuate it. And if it is going to be changed, if it is going to be altered, they want it to be changed and altered on their time clock, on their time management, on their agenda. They don't want it to be altered beforehand. I'm sure they got a nice 8-year, 10-year plan laid out for how they're going to reform policing. A nice 8-10-year plan. And in them 10 years, the only thing that's going to really have changed is the way they get people to look at how police bring terrorism down on people, and how mass incarceration affects people, and how racial injustice affects people. You know, and I've been meaning to do a video touching specifically on some of the things I've seen around this city market that's coming up, on some of the information that's been released around the city market coming up, and I just ain't got around to doing it, but I will do that. And so, and I think this, this phone getting low, so I gotta use the bathroom a little bit too. So I'm finna stop this live. But I want to just try to end it speaking on, the city of Rockford government. And excuse me, I apologize if some of these points or some of these thoughts I open up on or expound on, and I don't maybe necessarily bring to a full. I don't necessarily bring full circle, or I don't bring some type of totality to them, or I don't bring some type of climax or to the thought. Again, some of these things is the main reason that I'm doing this video is to try to inform people, whether it be from informing people on the names of the victims that these things have happened to, whether it be informing people on some of the ideology and the reasonings for the reason the May 30th Alliance, or me personally, does certain things protest wise or around protest, whether it be to inform people about the standings of where some of these the cases are. Maybe people don't have the time to or don't choose not to keep up with WIFR, WREX, or Rockford Register Star, whichever different news outlets are speaking on these things, or maybe they don't get a chance. They don't get a chance to go to our social media they don't go to the May 30th Alliance page. I'm just trying to start doing these things now that the weather is permitting, to end the barrier or the middleman thing that has happened, where we do something actively, and then after we do it, we do something actively, and then after we do it, it is reinterpreted by the community or reinterpreted by people. I want to personally take a step towards removing the reinterpretation, or removing somebody else. Damn, how many cops live in this damn building? Anyways, all right, I gotta use the bathroom. I'm finna end this.